If you haven't caught the podcast, the gimmick is Tom Kelly is a stand-up comedian whose life fell apart. I was working at Good Morning America. I was a very successful morning TV show warm-up comedian before the pandemic. And then the pandemic came. I had 3 out of 10 jobs like mine in the city, and my 3 jobs, one went to LA, so I go out from time to time, and the other 2 are gone. So the podcast is about me owning the midlife crisis. Actually, I should almost just do this as the intro for the show. You know what?
Absolutely.
All right. Today on the Tom Kelly Show, we are going to get your celebrity energy up with abundance artist, right? What do you call it? The abundance artist coach, right? Or coaching abundance.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, abundant artist coaching. Yeah.
Abundance artist coach, Whitney Uland. And you know what? Let's just start the show.
The Tom Kelly Show. Everybody, I want you to go to the Tom Kelly Show.
It's also fun to ambush a complete stranger with the theme song.
Oh, I heard it. I listened.
Have you? Did you listen? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's more fun to do it this way. All right, first, trigger warning, spoiler alert. Do you have celebrity energy? Well, you will by the end of this. You are experiencing the Tom Kelly Show. I have my new friend, Whitney. She popped up on my TikTok algorithm, and my TikTok generally shows me a lot of pretty women, and it shows me self-help stuff. And you guys know, if this was at one point branded a self-help podcast, I'm always trying to make myself better. And one of the things I'm always working on is my confidence. And Whitney popped up, and she's had a couple of little variations of what she does. But she came up as someone who coaches you in your celebrity energy. And I found that concept worth talking about on the podcast. So, you know what? Why don't we get you, since you're here, Whitney, what is celebrity energy?
Well, okay. So first off, thank you so much for having me. Great intro. Honestly, I would prefer to be combined as one of the hot women and one of the self-help people on your TikTok, but that's neither here nor there. So celebrity energy. So I believe I'm a life coach for artists. I help artists become famous. It's basically my shtick, and this is my intellectual property, if you will, is that I believe that fame is a resource, and fame is a result that you can create. And there is a difference between fame and celebrity. So celebrity is a person who can have fame. There are people who are famous who are not celebrities. There are people who are celebrities who aren't famous. But my belief and my teaching is that if you tap into what I call celebrity energy, another way of thinking of that is kind of like the it factor, then you become magnetic and you become attractive to the opportunities, the people, all the things.
Okay, that was like totally the ultimate TikTok. I only have 15 seconds to answer the question.
Right, I'm good at that, right?
We can slow down a bit because I think you just said famous people are just famous for some reason. And you said celebrity can have, say that sentence again.
Yeah. So there are famous people who are not celebrities. So that would be, do you remember that guy who was all hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband? So that guy, he's famous, but he's not a celebrity. When I say he's famous, I mean, he's got, there was a point infamous. Yeah. There was a point in time where a lot of eyeballs were on him. And as far as I know, he did not exchange that resource for anything, as far as I can tell. Maybe a song, I don't know, whatever. But then there's also, you can be a celebrity without having fame. I'm sure you've met people where you're in a room and it's just like they just have this draw. They just have this magnetic pull. And it's really, if you want fame, then you can tap into that resource and tap into that energy.
Okay, yeah. Now, on some shows, they call that the it factor. That was the big word at ABC, the it factor. Yep. Does that journalist have the it factor? Now, you call that celebrity energy.
I do, yeah. So I believe that the it factor, so most people, where I think that the distinction is that most people think that the it factor is something that just happens to you, right? We talk about people that are born with it, or they were born to be famous or whatever. And I like to challenge that notion, and I've seen people develop it over time. And what I argue is that the it factor is just a skill, and it's an energy that you can develop, that you can turn on, hence my name for it, celebrity energy.
Okay, let's go slow. Are people with the it factor assholes, for lack of a better word.
No. So I believe that the it factor is, or fame, let's say, okay, you're gonna. I'm slowing down now, right? So,
Yeah, let's slow down. Because you know what is, and let's own a few things about where we're at. We could go longer than 20 minutes if we have to. Yeah, we can, and we just might. I always aim for at least 20 minutes on the podcast because I think that's fun and respectful to guests, people who have dogs, like your adorable dog. What's the dog that's there right now?
His name's Otto.
Otto.
Short for Optimus Prime. Yeah.
Oh my God, you really, except that I've heard your husband on your podcast, you just became my dream girl and lost it all in 10 seconds there.
Oh, wow.
Wait, did he name it though? Did he name the dog?
No, I did actually.
Yeah, that's cute. All right, back to, but let's own this for a second.
Okay.
One of the things that comes up in the podcast is where I always have a catchphrase with some of my friends that you hate yourself just enough. Do people with celebrity energy, as you put it, hate themselves at all?
So I don't think those two things are actually related. Okay. So I would argue that fame or celebrity, it's just a resource. It's just like money. So let's look at this. If I gave you a kitchen knife and you knew what to do with it, you could make an amazing dinner. Or you could use that kitchen knife and literally stab someone and murder them.
Yeah,
right?
And let's go a third way, because I think I see where you're going with this. You could even stab yourself in the leg.
Exactly. So, and if you didn't know what to do with it, you could be trying to make an amazing Thanksgiving dinner and accidentally cut yourself, right? So all of this to say, I think that fame and what you do with it is dependent on the person who has it, right? There's going to be people that use fame to exploit people and to hurt other people and to be egotistical and things like that. However, there are plenty of people that use their fame for really good things and exchange that fame to, like, I'm thinking like Gina Davis. She's someone who is famous and now she's built out a film festival and she helps with inclusion and representation in the industry. There are so many people who use their celebrity to promote causes that they believe in, to lobby Congress, to do different things. And so again, I think that fame is just something that you get to make of it what you want. And my mission is that I believe that there are a lot of good people who are afraid of having fame because they think mistakenly that they will turn into something different instead of it just being a magnifying glass for who they already are.
Ooh. Now, is that a big part of your coaching? Because it's funny you say that. And I remember you saying that in your TikTok, as my Italian grandfather would have said if he were alive when TikTok was a thing. I find, like with me, like I've talked about this a little bit, I never let my family see me perform because I really don't want them to, I don't want their opinions on something that matters to me. And after seeing your TikTok, I was thinking, geez, do I hold myself back from being on television and from certain things going viral on the internet because I don't want to hear, my younger brother say, what did you do that for? What are you gonna, are you making any money off of that? What do you got to embarrass everybody if you're going to put yourself out like that? Is that something that you coach people to get over?
Yeah. So at the base root of this, all of this comes down to the fear of being seen. And so there are a lot of people that are really well-intentioned. They're thoughtful, and almost to a fault, right? You're noticing the needs of other people, and you're noticing how people would react, and you're noticing what they're going to think about whatever. You're anticipating that. And that fear can hold you back from creating a positive impact and creating the impact that you want. So I would say, like, most of the clients that I work with, they're people that they're similar to me. It's like from a young age, I knew that I was meant to be famous. I knew I was meant to have a platform. That was before the internet, so I didn't really know what that was going to look like, but I just knew inherently that that was going to be meant for me. And yet I had all of this people pleasing, all of this fear of what if there's a reason I post on TikTok and not Instagram. It's because my mom's not on TikTok, right? Like,
is that really it? Because I noticed you have a huge TikTok presence and your Instagram is whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean it's twofold, right? On the one hand, it is a second funnel and it's a different game a little bit. And I'm a young mom and I have a business and have an acting career. So there is a time element of it. But yeah, like probably at the base level, it's that like there are parts of my life that my mom's not gonna love. I do like even one time I like posted a photo with like a middle finger up and my mom's texting me. She's all, "Are you okay? Like what's going?" And I'm
Mhm.
like, "Oh damn, if she even heard an eighth of the things that I'm saying on TikTok, she would lose her goddamn mind, right?" So
And
it
it's funny,
is
like my favorite era of being on social media was MySpace because, and I aged myself with that swing, but nobody I loved was on it.
exactly.
Just me projecting my best self to strangers. And we could argue that's where I found my dream girl for a bit. I mean, I was dating somebody who I met through MySpace, who I always argue is the one who got away. We'll talk about that in a second therapy session, Whitney. But that said, but I was projecting, hey, I'm a comedian. I had a podcast back in 2003. And it was all just my happy pictures. And if I had an opinion, I posted it, and there was no, dude, you shouldn't talk politics. You shouldn't talk this. You shouldn't talk that. There was no fear of, if you post the wrong thing, you're going to get yourself fired. It was like it was an energy world of me projecting my best stuff. And maybe even the early days of Facebook, I was the same way. Now, what's your thought on that?
So, okay, so there's three major things that are going to keep you from stepping into celebrity energy or from creating the levels of fame and putting yourself out there in the best to your utmost capacity. So the first one is our primal instinct. So if you think about like you and I, we've evolved from cavemen and cavewomen. Now their job was just to stay safe, right? Don't go out
Right.
of the cave. Don't do anything that's going to upset your family. If you go out on your own, you could be attacked by a bear. You'd have to find your own food. You'd have to find your own water, right? So there's this really strong primal urge to not upset your tribe, not upset your community. And so that kicks in, right? And so so that at a subconscious level is going to keep you from sharing things, right? Or sharing things that your family could see or, X, Y, and Z. The second thing is society. So a lot of the artists that I work with, I would say everyone has some sort of like unconventional something about them, right? Whether it is, the age that they're at in the industry and feeling like they don't fit in yet, or whether they're, I'm a queer woman, or whether they're a person of color, just different things that like, and even just as an artist, society is not built for artists. Society is built for like people who work on Wall Street, right? And so we also then have this like societal pressure that gets in our head saying this isn't a real career path. This isn't something that you could actually do. Like, who the fuck do you think you are, right? Then there's a third thing, and this is trauma. So when I say trauma, I mean little t trauma. So this is no one necessarily had to go to jail for this to be considered a trauma, but it's something that taught you that it's not safe to put your work out there. So let's say, for example, on MySpace, you did put yourself out there, and then your brother saw it. At the subconscious level, that's going to teach you it's not safe to keep doing this, right? So we've got these three big things working against us, keeping us from putting our work into the world. So the work that I do is really about uncovering those and going through with clients in a case by case basis to figure out what those are and overcome those blocks.
Please don't take this as an insult.
You're good.
There are people saying, what? She's a life coach, coaching you in being a celebrity. Go feed your children.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, here's the thing. Obviously, if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food's got to come first, right? Like self-actualization is the last step on that hierarchy of needs. So I'm not out here saying that I'm curing poverty. That said, there is a need for people in self-actualization. And what I would argue is that your view that becoming famous is narcissistic, that you're never going to become something that you hate. So if you like, if people hate the rich, you're going to stay poor. Now, for you within your line of work, I would argue that there is something calling to you to have a bigger expanded podcast, and that there is trauma, societal bullshit, and past conditioning telling you that actually means that you're narcissistic. And so your belief that this is a narcissistic thing to pursue is actually keeping you stuck. And what I would also argue is keeping you from your growth. When you expand your audience and you put your real authentic self with no holds barred on the line, it will force you to grow. And I guess then it comes down to the topic of, is growth important? I would argue yes. I think as part of our evolvement as a human species, I think it's important. And I also just think it leads to a more fulfilling life. So that, I guess that would be my answer.
Above me, do you see the picture behind me?
Which one?
The big one, the wedding picture.
Oh, sure.
Who is it?
Is that Kate or
Oh,
the other one?
It's the
other one.
The other one. Yes, it's
the other one. The other
to spare. It's Meghan Markle kissing Prince
Harry.
I pulled that out of the trash. I saw that in a garbage on a garbage pile. It wasn't in the can. It was on a garbage pile. Important distinction. When I knew I was going to be interviewing you today, I saw someone discarding that picture, and I said, we need to discuss Meghan Markle on the Celebrity Energy podcast. I would argue she has celebrity energy.
Okay, so clearly me not even knowing, like, calling out who it is, I'll be the first to admit she's not someone whose career I follow that closely. I would actually argue that she has fame and not as much of celebrity energy. And the reason I say that is because she's pretty divisive, which could be a ploy, but she definitely has the resource of fame. And yet, so celebrity energy, a lot of it comes down to authenticity and presence, which I do, based on her saying things that are a little bit off the mark, make me think that's not quite where she's at.
Okay, let's go slow. Celebrity energy is the first step believing you deserve it.
Is the first step
On some of the first step to achieving any success. Because it's funny, earlier on, I didn't want to interrupt you, but you were talking about like a phrase I used to say, are you not successful because you're afraid of success? Like I kind of heard that version of advice I've gotten before in what you were saying.
Mm-hmm. No, so I would actually back it up a step further. I would say that the very first step is to believe that fame is safe. So, which is clearing out the ideas that you're narcissistic for wanting it, that you're a shitty person if you want it, that it means something about you for wanting it. So the first thing is making that, tearing down those stories in your brain and getting to the place that you stop judging yourself for wanting it and allow yourself to go all in on that goal. Then it becomes a matter of worthiness.
Okay. Second step. What's that?
Second step is like the second block you'd have to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going crazy, what's the second block you'd have to overcome?
Yeah, I would say after that is probably worthiness, which again, it's so the work that I do is it's kind of twofold. So I call it, you have to hack your brain, which means we outsmart it, right? We come to we kind of talk around and figure out, point the holes in these theories and challenge you to think something differently. But then there's also the second step, which is to rebalance your nervous system. When you're afraid of something and it is dangling in front of your face, your body will have a fear response. The same at like your adrenaline levels will spike, your cortisol levels will rise, and your body will create a fear response, a panic response. Now, that's very antithetical to making art. You can't do, like, I'm an actor and that's one for sure, and a singer as well. You can't fake it in your voice and in your breathing and in your face if you are in a fear response. So the second thing that we do is we look at, basically, I guess the steps are, first, we got to look at all of the thoughts that are keeping you from thinking that it's safe and going after these things. And then we got to recalibrate your nervous system and get you to a place that you actually believe it. I'm not a fan of fake it till you make it.
Okay. I love that you said that, because the one thing that you have said different than other life coaches I have talked to on this podcast and in my life is it's not fake it till you make it. It's actually get into a good spot and project it.
Totally. Yeah. I think that there are probably a lot of results that you can create by faking it till you make it. You can beat the shit out of yourself and lose weight. You can hate yourself to making $1 million. But with art, when you go into that fight or flight response, your creativity shuts down. And so you actually don't have full access to, like for you, your best jokes, your best bits, your best content ideas when you're in this fear response. So when you have these conflicting beliefs of I'm a narcissist if I want these things, that's creating at some subconscious level a fear response that then, like if you think about an animal in the wild, if someone is being attacked by a bear, they're not then going to be able to like write a sonata, right? Like that your brain and your body need different things at different times. So while I do think, and I think, you know, I'll be the first to admit that I think that there's a lot of toxic positivity in the coaching industry. And so, yeah.
What is toxic positivity? I've heard the word before. Our listeners may not have.
Yeah, so I would say it is that fake it till you make it, or kind of like blaming a person for not having the results that they want, or just saying, like, I remember when my dad died and people came up to me and they're like, at least he got to be at your wedding. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, that's not the moment right now. Like, I'm grieving, I'm processing, right? And then we do that a lot. We like gaslight ourselves and that happens a lot in the coaching space of just think differently, just have a positive attitude, just look at the bright side, look for the silver lining. And again, maybe that works for some people, but I don't think it works for artists, creatives, and influencers because it's antithetical to the product that we are creating.
I love that answer. Now, you're coaching people in abundance. You're coaching people on celebrity energy. You're a celebrity to me, but you're not a celebrity yourself. What qualifies you to teach this stuff? And I know you've had some success, and I want you to end that answer with some of the people you've coached.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, my biggest clients, I'm not gonna be able to share because of NDAs. But I've been doing this. I've been at this for 5 years now. I've been certified through the life coach school. I'm an artist myself. I'm definitely a proponent of like I'm an artist first. I'm not interested in being the next Tony Robbins, and also because of the work I do, it's all about individualized, getting people to their most authentic compass, if you will. And so, yeah, I mean, I definitely am spread across, you know, I produced a film last year and I acted on television the year before that, you know, all of those different things. I would say what qualifies me is that I practice what I preach, and that I've coached hundreds of artists on this at this point.
And listen, there's at least one, and you're going to fill me in on the details and even the proper pronouns, but you had, hang on, it's not Desperate Housewives, it's the other, Charmed. You have the guy who got on Charmed. He was on your podcast. You could say that name, and guy may not be the right pronoun.
Yeah, no, you're correct. He's a trans man, JJ Hawkins. Yeah, he was on Charmed. And he was actually the first trans actor to be on primetime television. So it's fun watching. I get to watch a lot of people's careers break, which is really fun.
Okay, now without getting into my own, long list of friends, fluidity, whatever words I want to use. What I liked about his interview, JJ started as a woman and became a man in life.
He transitioned to male. Yeah.
Transitioned to male. Now, I got out of that interview is if you're growing up with that kind of an issue, you feel like an outsider. And I think a lot of people who listen to this podcast have a feeling inside there's some sort of an outsider. So at least there is one client you had who was an outsider who you helped, and I could hear it in the way he talked about you on your podcast. That's one client you helped them get over their outsider feelings. How can being an outsider and owning that you're an outsider help you embrace your celebrity energy?
So I would argue that if you have that outsider feeling, that's actually when it's the most important to embrace celebrity energy and to create as much fame as possible. Because again, like for JJ, he's never seen someone who looks like him, who talks like him. Like he did not have any role models growing up. And so he could have taken that and said, okay, I guess that means there's not a place for me here. But instead, he turned his life into, I'm going to be the example of what's possible. And to then turn around and be that example for the thousands of other trans kids that also don't feel like they fit in, right? And so I would argue if there's a part of you that feels like you are an outsider, then that I argue that then it's your mission to then show that you're not an outsider and to like bust through whatever glass ceiling you see, to then turn around and help other people. I think that's the most fulfilling way to live your life.
So as we wrap this up, most of my listeners are not comedians. Most of my listeners are people in their 30s and 40s figuring out the next step of life. How can tapping into their celebrity energy and a coach like you help them out?
So the way you do one thing is going to be the way that you do everything. And really what we're doing here is changing your identity. So it's not uncommon for me. This is one of my favorite stories, and this is a real story, is that I had a client, he came to me, and when we started together, he said, I want my goal for our time together, our 6 months together, is to book a movie. Then he wrote to me 10 days later and said, okay, sorry, I went MIA for a minute. I booked a movie, I booked a recurring television role, I booked a commercial, and I got a new manager. Now what do we do for the next 6 months, right? And we decided to work on his dating life because, again, ultimately, and to take those skills and put them in his dating life. So when you heal one area of your life, and whether it is you want to get a raise, you want to do better in dating, you just want to have a TikTok following for whatever reason, I'm always an advocate of follow that desire, because it's going to lead you to your growth and lead you to the things that you want. So yeah, I do work with clients, obviously my niche is artists, creatives, and influencers, but people who are interested in a creative lifestyle that want to become a magnet, whether that is for, dating or career opportunities, that's kind of what I'm doing here.
All right. And I think that's the note to end on. How do people find you as you're now drinking out of your giant pink water bottle?
My giant pink water bottle. Instagram or TikTok, I'm at Whitney Uland, just one word. And that's usually where I'm hanging out these days.
All right, Whitney, thank you so much. Listen, guys, if you were watching on YouTube, comment on the YouTube, hit that little thumbs up, hit that like button, ladies and gentlemen. Quick magic mirror time, ladies and gentlemen. I see Scott Bay. I see Scott Bay and Scott Baker. I see you both, and then everyone else. New podcast Mondays and Wednesdays. If you like this episode, and I think you did, share it with a friend. Share it with all your celebrity friends, in fact. Until next time, good night, New York.